60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
In Nigeria's 2017 budget, her president, Muhammadu Buhari, says as the benefits of agriculture are starting to become visible, he has instructed that the export expansion grant be revived in the form of tax credits to companies. Now, how will that work and how soon will we see that happen? Well, hello and welcome to the program. I'm Angela Ajitumobi. And as Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics also agrees that agricultural exports have increased by over 82% in the first quarter of 2017. They say that this shows that Nigeria's export trade value is now more than its import value. That's where my host today comes in. He's a former academician turned politician, a former deputy speaker of Benue State Legislature. That was between 1979 and 1982. He's been a minister with two portfolios in the past, communications and steel development. He has also been the national chairman of a former ruling party, the People's Democratic Party. Today, he's a member of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. In fact, he was one of the facilitators of the merger that led to the formation of that party. OGBEh is the current Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development, and he joins me on the program today. There's two types of farming, the way I thought about it. There's farming for food, and then there's farming as a business that makes money. Now, we know that farming has changed all over the world. It's moved on from local implements and stuff like that. Do we get pass marks on the way we're handling our farming, either for food or as a business that makes money?
I think what we are trying to achieve now is to merge the two. There is a small scale holder who grows just enough, 1 acre, barely enough to feed the family, but who also is compelled to sell part of it to be able to meet those other needs which are natural in life. But we're trying to increase that peasants, small-scale farmers' holding to be able to meet both needs, feeding and a little extra to sell. So once you can cross that line, you can keep getting bigger and bigger. We came from families that could barely grow enough food to last us 6 months of the year. So there was a season called the season of hunger. And we were expected to simply recognize that there were no harvests, and therefore we had to go hungry. Miss one meal or two. That's no longer what farming is all about. I was in a school, my old secondary school in Benue last week, and the principal said to me that the only children whose school fees are paid more promptly now are the children of the farmers, faster than the children of the bureaucrats, the civil servants, and the businessmen.
Yes.
Which means some impressive change is taking place. Agriculture is moving on.
Have we gotten to the point where we're having farming all year round? You know, I'm thinking of this yearly scarcity of tomato that we have. I've always wondered why we can't have tomato all through the year in the same quantity.
Well, first, irrigation is practiced only to 2 or 3% of the entire business of agriculture in this country. And it's done mainly in the northwest, Kebbi, Kano, Jigawa, Zamfara. part of Sokoto. Irrigation has been quite strong in that zone. The establishment of dams like Tiga Dam by Audu Bako and all the large dams of the Second Republic helped, although many of those dams have been abandoned. We are now trying to spread this nationwide. You see all this heavy rain falling.
Yes.
The water finds its way into the Atlantic Ocean through small rivers and canals.
And creeks, yes.
They wander into the main rivers and then fall straight into the Atlantic now. The Atlantic doesn't need more water. We do here. So there is a program we're putting in place now for creating dams and lakes, at least 3 per senatorial district nationwide.
Is that the 560 million World Bank trimming?
Trimming is coming on under the Ministry of Water Resources. Ours is called Project 1037. 10 dams in each state times 37 including FCT. Now there
10 dams in each state?
Dams and lakes, yes, in each state. So we'll revive existing ones, we'll build new ones. A state like Oyo, for instance, has 22 dams. Hardly any is being used for anything. I'll soon be in the southwest for a week, and we want to revive every one of those dams and lakes. Clear the land around them, put in canals, and irrigate so that Oyo can satisfy all year-round farming, grow maize, grow groundnuts, grow rice, and actually meet the needs of the people and supply Lagos. So resources are like that. Ogun has about 8. There are some big ones in Ekiti and Ondo, and it spreads across. But most of the states have never put these dams and lakes to use. We have to move away from 4 months of cropping and 8 months of waiting to a stage where there can be fresh corn all year round, and fresh rice all year round, and fresh fish all year round, and 2 harvests of yams and cassava, and so on. That's where we're going. Because the beauty, as you mentioned earlier, is that Nigeria is a very powerful force in agriculture. Unfortunately, for 40 years, we forgot that heritage. The great record of the days of Awolowo and Sardauna and Michael Okpara in the First Republic were totally forgotten by the windfall in oil and gas.
Of oil.
This is the point.
I wanted to talk to you about this famine alert before we go further. 3 United Nations agencies reported that Nigeria would suffer famine, food shortage, and malnutrition. So, are we facing famine or starvation?
The prediction began in February this year, and I told them categorically there will be nothing of the sort in Nigeria. We began new harvests of maize and rice in parts of the country, and that will stretch between now and October. There is some famine in the northeast,
which had suffered from
because of Boko Haram.
Yes.
So when they say this, they are not quick enough to say it's the northeast for very obvious reasons.
Yes.
I was consultant to the governor of Borno State throughout the days of Boko Haram, the worst days.
Yes.
And we knew that was going to happen. People were driven from their farms and couldn't grow anything. So it was only natural. Now Boko Haram is being contained. That same state called Borno, where the intensity of the crisis was most felt, has more tractors and machinery for agriculture than 10 states added up. In Borno State, 4,000 tractors and 27 combined harvesters, and well over 2,000 threshers, because we were working together then.
Yes.
And I said to the young man, the governor then, I said, listen, we're in crisis now. We just have to pray to God and get through it. Your problem will begin when the crisis is over, and he's prepared for it. And I assure you, in another year or 2, people won't believe what will come out of that region. So there will be no famine here. Okay. Even now, we're still exporting grains to our neighbors in West Africa.
When I read that, I was surprised that we're exporting. You say that Nigeria is a major source of food for other African countries, Algeria, Libya, Sudan, Chad.
Yes.
I thought, really? We're selling our food when we don't even have enough yet to feed ourselves?
Quite frankly, at that same time, I think CNN reported that the grain production in Nigeria had exceeded anything anybody could imagine. People didn't want to emphasize that. Till now, if you go to the Dawano market or the Megatari market in Jigawa or to Funtua, people still have grains in warehouses and are still selling to West Africa, even as I speak, where new harvests are coming on board. The quantum of grains produced in the last 15 months in this country has never been equaled. That's true.
Are you serious?
And then the DFID has just published a report.
Yes.
Amazing what they wrote. Better than anything the ministry could have prepared and published. We have done very well and we're increasing our output. There will be no famine here. There are severe problems in the northeast for very obvious reasons, but we'll overcome them.
What about malnutrition? Do we eat well?
We don't eat well. Now that's another issue. There's a difference between eating plenty and eating well. 37% of our children are said to be malnourished. Some because they don't even have anything to eat. Some because they eat the wrong thing. There's too much carbohydrate in our diet. It's amala, eba, yam, rice. That's why we're starting a new program in the 3 universities of agriculture we brought back under my ministry.
Yes.
A program we're going to present to NUC called Nutrition and Food Sciences, Nutrition and Health Sciences. It's about time to educate our people on how to eat, what not to eat, at what age not to eat certain things, because some of the food helps our immune system to develop. Some other types of food help to destroy our immune system. If you keep consuming carbohydrates in excessive quantities, obviously diabetes will follow. If you don't eat enough protein, enough vitamins, not enough sulfur in your food, enough iron in your food, if you don't have certain inputs in your diet system,
yes,
of course your resistance diminishes, your energy level drops, your eyes don't see too clearly. A bit of carrot in your food, not overcooked carrot.
Yes.
One of our weaknesses, we overcook our vegetables. The housewife has to know, when you're making your soup,
yes,
the vegetables should be the last item just before you take the soup off the pot, off the fire.
Drop it in and put off the fire.
Exactly, and just stir it. Otherwise, you destroy all the vitamins in your vegetables.
So with carrots, are we better off eating carrots?
Oh yes, for
naturally?
the eyes. Exactly. But if you must boil it,
yes,
just steam it a bit. So a whole range of things are going wrong with what we eat. Even the grinding machines in the market.
Yes.
We're using those machines and they're not very healthy.
You're talking about the iron content
Exactly.
in those machines.
Yes.
People are still using them to grind pepper. They tell me, the English blender doesn't grind it smoothly enough.
A young Nigerian, is producing grinding machines now, the finest standards I've ever seen. And Firo is making some. We're about to organize many of these machines, subsidize them, give them to the governor's wives, the local government wives to put in the markets for the commercial grinders.
They'll be made with stainless
steel. Because ferrous oxide, these other machines rust, and ferrous oxide is very bad for the intestines and the system. The body can't handle them. A lot of the premature cancer and premature, liver and kidney failures, essentially of young people, and not old men like me, are the ones lying in hospital with kidney failure and liver failure, and you ask, why? Why would a young person of 25 be the one the fellow doesn't drink much alcohol? What's going wrong? Food.
So those grinding machines are a no-no.
They are no good. And this year we have a budget. We're talking with the Ministry of Women, and we're talking with the First Lady. We're going to produce a lot of them and subsidize them and put them in the market for use. Then, of course, making moi with cellophane.
With plastic.
Plastic cellophane.
The fast food companies do that a lot.
We are about to start a major campaign that contains dioxin, extremely poisonous. The body can't handle it.
Moi in the plastic
in those cellophanes,
containers.
At that temperature, you are no longer consuming beans, you're eating poison.
So what about the ones who make moi in the milk tins?
Even those milk tins are not particularly good. We have to go back to the moi leaf, because that puts into the beans antioxidants, which are good for your body. And our people knew it in the past.
That was why they were using those leaves.
Today, we've walked away from that. We're going to expand the production of those leaves in Ondo, Ogun area by the water sides, and expand the production to other states. Because women go to the market and can't find the leaves.
They're very scarce.
Absolutely.
Very scarce.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier on about the 3 universities of agriculture that have now been moved to your ministry. Why did you move them away from Ministry of Education?
Because in 1992, the act which set them up put them under the Ministry of Agriculture. And they had specific instructions to be subject specific, to do research and development, and teach us these things I'm mentioning, but also produce a new generation of very, very highly trained farmers. The type of situation you have in the US where just 3% of the populace is almost feeding the world. For some reason, these universities graduated or migrated themselves into teaching subjects not exactly relevant.
Not practical.
Not practical. Management, accounting, law, even medicine, some political science. And we said no. We need more research in agri. We need more knowledge. We need more information. And above all, we need a younger generation of farmers to replace the aging group whose average age today is 65 years and below. In another 10 years, they won't be there.
They won't be able to go to the farm
All the young
anymore.
boys who are helping them in the villages prefer to ride Okada and make 1,500 a day or that kind of thing. So the time is near when you find nobody on the farms. And for a country whose population is heading for 450 million in 33 years from now, accounting for 5% of the world's population, estimated population of 9 billion, how do we survive? Who's going to feed us? And we have a young population. So young people have to be educated and encouraged and supported to go into agri. Research has to improve and increase so that from 1 hectare, you get a yield which is higher than the farmer today does on 10 hectares, because you're now bringing science and technology into agriculture. And by the way, people then asked, what's the big deal? Why must they teach only agriculture?
Agriculture, yes.
We're not saying teach only agriculture. You can teach a few relevant courses as electives. But we're also saying, why does Brazil have 70 universities of agriculture? Why does India have 87? Why does China have about 30? These countries faced serious problems of poverty and hunger. And they realized that modern agriculture is no longer just about sticking a seed in the soil. You have to do your soil test, improve your seed yield, know what chemical to use, what not to use, when and how to harvest and dry and store. These aspects of knowledge were provided by the universities. And these countries have seen the result. India was a country that faced hunger. When I was younger, India went through terrible crisis in food. Families stayed on the pavements and died of hunger. Today, India is an exporter of food after feeding 1.2 billion people. Why? Research, science, technology. India is more self-sufficient in milk than China.
We'll come to the question of milk when we come back from this break. So join us again after the break.
Nice question.
Angela, that's a great question.
It's a good question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
That is a serious question.
Angela, that is a very great question.
Great question, Angela.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question.
Angela, that's a tough one for me.
That's a good question. Good question.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Well, welcome back. It's still 60 Minutes with Angela, the Ministers Forum. And on my hot seat today, OGBEh is the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. You mentioned milk, and I thought about your comment on imported grass. You said the importation and cultivation of good and nutritious grass will help in some way. Are you saying that Nigeria does not have grass that our cows can eat?
I'm telling you, you don't have. Apart from the elephant grass with a protein content of what is 7 or 8%, you have very little good grass here.
Is that why the cows look very skinny?
They look skinny first because cows don't like to walk.
Well, when you say that, we see them on the expressways.
They are being tortured by their owners, marching them around. Cows don't walk. Cows are very majestic animals. They eat, drink good water, and sit down in one spot and give you good milk and tender meat. That's what cows like to do.
You mean it is wrong to move those cows
Absolute
around?
torture. But it is the culture, or rather the habit of the Fulanis. And they walk around not because they like to, but because they are in search of grass. Any grass. I've even seen a cow. I was driving along one day chewing plastic out of hunger. Cows don't like to walk. I have some. Some of my cows are with a friend of mine, Admiral Nyako,
Yes.
former governor of Adamawa State. Big, huge animals. One of them weighs about 950 kilograms. It's a bull.
Big.
Big. It doesn't walk. It just eats and relaxes. The largest dairy farm in the world is in Saudi Arabia, the Almera farm.
Yes.
135,000 cows on one farm. They don't walk.
They don't go
They
anywhere.
don't go anywhere. They are the most comfortable cows on planet Earth in air-conditioned tents. They import grass from Brazil and Argentina to feed the cows in shiploads because you can't grow grass in Saudi Arabia.
Did you know how vilified you were for
yes.
saying that we were going to import grass?
I got every missile from everywhere because, well, I understand. The people don't really know about this subject and they talk about it. If you table nuclear physics
Yes.
today, a motor park tout will have a comment without being rude to Nigerians.
Yes.
We talk sometimes about subjects we know nothing about.
about.
No economy that wants to be self-sufficient in cattle and milk can ignore the issue of grass.
Why is grass so important
Because
to the cow?
they are ruminants. That's what the animals like to eat. They don't eat meat. They're not carnivorous.
Yes.
grass or cassava leaf or perhaps processed foods, grass, animal waste,
Yes.
corn stalks, soybean stalks, sorghum stalks, granulated or powdered
Yes.
and then pelletized with some salt lick is good for them. They need about 10 kilograms of this stuff a day. But the food must have at least 15 to 25% crude protein and amino acids. If it doesn't have, the cow can't be nourished. The cow was designed to eat grass. So if you are going to go into cattle rearing with good yields of milk, you've got to think of fodder first. That's the first thing you do. Raise your grass so the cows have access to at least 10 kg of that grass per day and have access. I was telling some people today, in Europe, a cow drinks in the summer 100 liters of water per day. 2 big jerry cans per day. Your cows marching from Yola or Maiduguri to Lagos will be lucky if they drink 5 liters of water in a week.
And if they're not drinking enough water, they won't be able to produce enough milk.
Which is why your cattle here have the lowest yield of milk on planet Earth, averagely less than a liter of milk per cow per day. But in other parts of Africa, 25 liters. In Europe, 50. There was an agric show in England about 6-7 months ago. A British cow was awarded a medal, 67 liters of milk per day. So we spend $1 billion importing powdered milk into this country. Now, powdered milk is not good grade milk because you now have to reconstitute it with water. That's not the best of milk. That's where we are. But we're working on it.
If we import this grass,
The seeds. And
we'll be able to grow them.
Oh, yes. The Brazilians got some of their seeds from Africa. They got some seeds from here. Send them through laboratory work and so on, and have developed grass now that yields fodder 27% crude protein.
That's high.
Trace elements, yes, and amino acids. And so when you go to Brazil, the state of Mato Grosso do Sul, the minister then
Yes.
is now, the governor there is now Minister of Agriculture. The state is larger than Nigeria in size. One state, Mato Grosso do Sul. There are 3 million people in the whole state, but 30 million cows. Brazil is the largest exporter of meat in the world. 35% of all meat sold in the world is from Brazil. One country. Not magic. It's about getting down to the details. And when the Fulanis roam around, I have met with them. I've met with the Lamido of Adamawa. I've sat with cattle headsmen and talked to them. Why do you walk around? Do you like it? They said no. If we can find grass and water, we'll go nowhere.
Okay, so in other words, what former President Obasanjo said, that ranching of livestock is best for rearing animals.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's right.
Yes. Now, what we're working on that, we had grazing reserves, 415 of them.
All over the country.
All over the country. The largest majority in Adamawa. They've all been overrun by roads, by development projects, and the fact that nobody bothered to keep planting grass for the cows. So we have no grazing areas now for cattle, which is why we're bringing improved grass seeds, the Napier grass, the Bracharia grass, alfalfa grass, which grows very well on the Mambila, Ogoja and Plateau.
Yes.
Other kinds of grass do very well here. We are creating cattle colonies in some states. 13 states have given us 5,000 hectares each. Inside the colony, you can go and set up your ranch. We give you grass, give you water and vet services. And then we move in people who buy the milk. You must milk your cow at 5 a.m.
In the morning?
Yes.
Why?
The udder is full and the cow is groaning and grumbling. If you don't do so by midday, it could bust. I mean, if you see the European cows, the big fat udder, that cow is carrying 30 kilograms of weight below its legs and moving very slowly.
Because
and if you go to
the weight of the
milk, if you go to a milking cow in a milking farm in Europe, the cow walks into the computer stand on his own. The robot sprinkles water on the teats to wash it, and then engages the teats and automatically takes out the milk.
The cow knows that it's
The cow
time
knows when
to
it's
go
heavy.
there.
They line up when it is milking. They give it some very sweet food to eat to encourage it, and then it finishes. The gate opens. It walks away, and the next cow falls in line. And then the milk is pumped into a tank. Temperature brought down to 4 degrees and kept. It's not magic. It can be done. We have to get there. It's already happening in Oyo State with Friesland Campina, but they have colonies of Fulanis who milk and take to them. What we want to do now is to begin to crossbreed cattle, the Brazilian variety,
Yes.
which they took from India, and the breed from India is the same breed as we have there, the Zebu, the Fulani white, or the Adamawa white. We're going to cross with the Brazilian variety. We'll get bigger cows with a higher yield of milk and begin to give individuals. If you have 4 behind your house milking every day, you have no reason to look for a job as long as you feed the cows well. We have to move there, create wealth for widows, for women in the villages, for youths. A person with 20 of these cows is a multi-millionaire because 1 liter of milk is 200 naira, fresh milk. And then you skim it and take the butter and all that
On
stuff
top,
out of it.
yes.
And we're thinking we should give our children a pint of milk a day in school. We have 25 million children in primary school, 10 million on the streets, not going to school yet.
They say that's increasing too.
Yeah, a pint of milk a day will produce Einsteins and so on here, because protein. The first 5 years of a child's growth, there's nothing more strategic than protein. Beans and milk and fish. Most families can't afford that.
Yes.
Then you're going to see sportsmen. You're going to see people growing 6'4", the kind of stuff you have in the US, those tall, big guys.
Yes.
Because the diet.
Just listening to you, the statements that a lot of people make that I've heard saying we're exaggerating what agriculture can do to our GDP. Now it makes more sense listening to you that it is essential we get agriculture right. Otherwise, we're not going to really make any real progress.
Again, the elite, we understand, they're not involved, so. And agric has always been looked down upon anyway by the elite.
Yes.
Our parents struggled and sent us to school. They lived a very modest, not to say impoverished life, because they were the nameless, the unrecognized citizens of society, poor peasants, right? So we think that agric is nothing. 6 months ago, the Russian Minister of Agriculture flew here to see me. They're looking for fruits, fresh fruits from here. He came in his own jet, lovely aircraft. I got quite jealous. I was in Brazil just a month ago. The Minister of Agric there, who was governor twice of Mato Grosso do Sul, and senator twice, flies around in one of the loveliest planes I've ever seen. He's the largest single producer of soybean on planet Earth. He grows 30,000 hectares of soybean per annum. His younger brother is next to him in the world, Rockefeller, in the US. There was a friend of ours in Brazil called OGBEh Brito, was the largest single rancher on earth. 15 ranches, each with 19,000 cows. And when he sent a plane to take us to the farm, it was a 727 with a runway on each farm in Brazil. Ayorosiji, you remember the name?
Yes.
Minister in the West?
Yes.
Western Nigeria. After the coup of 66, he moved to Brazil, to the state of Ceará, a town called Fortaleza, and set up a cashew plantation, 3,000 hectares. His children are there. He makes money.
It's still there.
Still there. There's a primary school in the place, a secondary school on the farm. But here, once we discovered oil, we jettisoned everything. How can they say that when, in the First Republic, cocoa, even coffee, palm oil, groundnuts, sesame seed, gum arabic, hides and skins were Nigeria's main exports? We had no oil and gas. How is it that the competition between the regions was so intense? In the southwest, civil servants' salaries were higher than the federal government when Awo was premier. He launched free education. In his attempt to expand it, he wanted to increase tax a bit. They got angry with him and voted him out in 1964. They didn't know. Today they know. Nobody can ignore agric, and nobody can make those comments about agric. If they do, it's because they don't know enough. The first container of Nigerian yams landed in the US.
And I was going there, this matter of yams,
Yes.
because you said by June 2017 we will be exporting yams
We have.
to Europe.
Exactly.
Have we started?
One container just landed in the US. The next one is going on the 29th.
What do you mean by certified yams?
Certified, disease-free, properly packaged, of the right size, because there are certain things you can detect using chemicals or microscopes on food, which the naked eye can't see. You check all those. Once you certify them, then your packaging. If you put yams in a carton, 2 yams must not touch each other.
Why not?
They generate heat and begin to rot.
That tells me something, that there is a market for export of
Massive.
agric, but there's some drawbacks. Many Nigerians don't know how to properly package things for export. What is the federal government doing about that?
They knew how to do it until 1974, when the marketing boards were scrapped. Sometimes some of our reforms have actually deformed this country's economic growth. The same thing happened in education. You cancel teacher training colleges, and now you recruit just any tout to go and teach. And you are complaining of the quality of education. Anybody is a teacher now, no matter how reluctant. But getting back to agric, the marketing boards knew what the market in the world wanted. They followed the farmer from planting to harvesting to drying to packaging and to marketing abroad. After that cancellation, nobody was responsible. So people took whatever they had and put on boats.
So you agree with me that a lot of the exports, when they get there, it can be embarrassing for us?
Absolutely. The beans, the vegetables. In London, ewedu, efo, and ugu are very expensive. But if they arrive, the quarantine people turn it around and see the egg of the white fly below, they instantly destroy it. Or they see the chemical you used to produce it, or the temperature at which you preserved it, which would be 14 degrees Celsius. If it was lower, or higher. If it is too low, the vegetable shrivels. If it's too high, it freezes. So, if you haven't met those rules, you can't enter.
It's discarded.
Discarded. Because they're very concerned about the health of their people. And those things were ignored for a long time. Now we have the zero reject program. We have an agency between about 5 ministries working on this, making sure that nothing leaves our port and doesn't meet international standards. And we'll soon apply it back home. There is only one standard, the world standard, the best standard. So we too can live long and live in good health.
Let's talk about the latest data from the National Bureau of Statistics on the increase of agri exports. They say it's increased by 82% in the first quarter of this year, 2017, and that these exports were driven by sesame seeds. I thought only sesame seeds. Mm-hmm. So what else can we bring in to make sure we see more of this increase?
Oh my goodness, soybeans. The Chinese are all over asking for soya. And the Indians have just come. The Indian vice president was here.
Yes.
And they asked us to grow what they call pulses. Pulses are all categories of beans. The market in India is $100 billion per annum.
For pulses?
Pulses. Black-eyed beans, brown beans, white beans. If we can take 25% of that market, and we can, we're in business, it's 25 billion. We've gone far now. We've got samples of the seeds they like. The agronomists are coming to show us how to grow it, so we don't sell to them, and here later it doesn't meet their standards. So this season, we're starting experiments. So soybeans, cowpea, pigeon pea, black-eyed beans, and what have you, India is waiting. They don't have enough land. I've been in India 6 times. Hardly a farmer there has 4 hectares. There's no land. There are 1.2 billion people. In fact, if you have 4, the state may take 1.5 and give somebody else.
To make sure there's kind of a balance.
Yeah, and everybody has to grow something. But we have land. Of the 40 million hectares of land still left uncultivated, 44.
Yes.
We haven't scratched the surface yet. It's about pushing down the trees and opening up. So, if you add soybeans to China, we talked of sesame seed, we talked about gum arabic.
What is gum arabic?
It's from a plant called acacia, and it grows in lumps and you harvest it. And now, if you drink Coca-Cola, you wouldn't know that there's gum arabic in it.
In Coca-Cola?
In Coca-Cola. Why does Coca-Cola not sediment? It can't sediment. Gum arabic. It's an emulsifier in the chemical industry. If there are 2 disparate elements, chemicals you want to mix, and they refuse to mix, you either use, if it is oily, you use egusi oil, or if it is not oily and it's just watery, you use gum arabic. It merges the 2 and blends them, and you don't notice any difference. It's also used in glues. Sudan is the leader in the world. We are next to them. We can overtake them. Then you have coconut oil. They are discovering now that coconut oil has ingredients that cure cancer. They're still doing research.
Yeah.
Imagine the entire south coast, Lagos to Akwa Ibom, Cross River.
All growing coconut.
If we decide to do 10 million trees of coconut and produce coconut oil, cosmetics, medicine. Look at shea butter. Most of the shea butter we have is wild. We are going to go into plantations now, asking farmers to do the same. Cashew nuts. Walmart has asked us to roast cashews specifically for Walmart. We're now exporting raw nuts. I'm a cashew farmer, and we sell to Vietnam, and then let them process and export. This year, we're bringing 5 processing plants to give groups of young graduates to roast and export and extract the cashew nut shell liquid, which is very good for industrial use. Imagine palm kernel shell, right? After you crack it, you know the shell, which people burn or throw on the street? It produces activated carbon, a very expensive ingredient in the oil industry. The list is endless, what we have here. It's just that we haven't paid attention. And we, the elite, agri, it's not oil and gas, not aviation, not banking and finance.
Yes, farming is not glamorous.
No, it isn't. I mean, it's only we wretched ones who opt to do it. But which country in the world has made it without first stabilizing agriculture? Show me. Not one.
Are you saying that the top countries of the world...
They first dealt with the stomach. Even in Japan. There was a time all the young boys in the villages in Japan couldn't find a wife. Why? The girls wouldn't marry a village boy. So everybody moved to Osaka, to Tokyo.
Yes.
The car industries and the electronic, Sony and
computers.
And so on. And the Japanese government realized they had to spend tons of dollars buying rice. So the Japanese developed a kind of rice called the Japonica. And they claim it's the best rice in the world. It's not true. So in their villages, they paid young men so much money to grow rice. The young men became small-time millionaires of their own. And therefore the girls were willing to marry them.
When they started growing the
Precisely.
rice.
And the same with fish, the same with cattle, the same with milk. Every country must stabilize its agriculture. If you don't, you are not independent.
Join us again after the break. So what is 60 Minutes with Angela all about? It's not an interview, I like to think it's a conversation between two people making the news, people who are in the news, and those who become the news. And the whole idea is to inform, to educate, or to clarify, as the case may be. It is an art getting people to answer the questions that everyone is thinking in their minds. And that's what we try to do on 60 Minutes with Angela. I ask all the questions that everyone's thinking about and no one wants to voice. All the questions you always wanted to ask, you get those answers on 60 Minutes with Angela. Every week on this station, 60 Minutes with Angela, getting answers to every question you always wanted to ask. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with OGBEh, Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Let's talk about rice, because you've mentioned that now. You've targeted, you said, by 2018.
End of this year.
End of 2017.
End of this year, we have no business with 1 grain of rice from anywhere in the world.
How many varieties of rice do we have? Because everyone talks about Ofada rice. Is that the only rice we have?
We have 70 types of rice on the farms here.
70?
70.
70.
There are 800 varieties of rice in the world. Rice is a grass.
Rice is a grass.
It's a grass. It's just a grass whose seed we found edible, that's all. The most popular here and the long grain are the Faro 54, Faro 44. They are long. We don't do the basmati here. It's a very delicate rice. Very difficult to mill. It breaks too quickly. Very nice, very of a high aesthetic value. But Ofada, yes. Ofada is an indigenous rice, very fat and short, with plenty of gelatin in it.
Is that bad?
It's good. But the beauty of Ofada is that you don't polish it. It is brown. You grow it, harvest it, and then simply thresh it, mill it without polishing it. But I have seen some of the Ofada coming out of parts of Ofada town in Ogun State, right?
State, yes.
We have to show them how to parboil the rice. It has an odor now.
Is that odor natural? Should
No.
we eat it with the odor?
No, no. It's not natural. It is there because they over-soak it. You are supposed to soak your rice in water at 85 degrees for just 4 hours.
At 85 degrees?
The temperature of the water.
Okay.
85 degrees. Then you turn out the water and steam it for 1 hour. Then dry it and mill. Now, if you leave it in water overnight, it begins to ferment, and hence the odor. I used to follow my mother to the rice mill when I was small,
Yes.
but I was also the first Nigerian to mill rice free of stones, 1986, thanks to my friend Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. He
Right.
brought me the machines.
The machines.
From Korea.
And you have 110 rice mills that you've just imported.
200 about to be distributed,
Yes.
to add to the 22 giant ones already in place. So by the end of this year, nobody has any business looking for foreign rice. It won't even taste right. Ours is better.
Ours is better.
Any day of the week.
What do the rice mills do?
You take the paddy from the farmer. From the farm, it's called paddy.
Okay, that's the grass.
Yes. And then you beat it. Now we have machines to thresh it, take out the seed, right? And we know the lighter seeds are blown off. The more stable seeds you put in your sacks and you sell to the miller. The miller then takes the rice to his mill, does what they call pre-cleaning to remove further impurities, other things. Then soaks it in water, the temperature of 85 degrees. And after 4 hours, it moves from the soaking tank to the dryer, to the steamer. It is steamed and then moved to the dryer.
And dry.
It is dried and left in the tempering tank for it to temper. And then you send it to the mill, where the rubber rollers peel the rice. One goes clockwise, the other anti-clockwise. And the rice is passing through these rubber rolls.
And they're
that
peeling.
peels it without touching the seed. The chaff then goes out and is pumped into the chamber where it provides electricity, heat for the boilers.
The waste product from
yes,
the rice.
Yes. That's what you use for the boilers and the steam. Then the rice comes out, it cools and you bag, automatically bagging, 10
Yes.
kg, 50 kg, whatever you want to do. And it's ready for the market.
So we have 70 varieties of rice
In the country?
In the country.
Yeah.
They don't look alike.
Not exactly. If you put them on the table, you can see
You
difference.
can see the difference.
Yeah.
Can you tell the difference between rice from the southeast and from the southwest?
No, it depends on the seed, on the variety of rice. You can't tell from which farm, no.
How will these 200 rice mills be distributed?
We have advertised, people have made bids, but we're also giving to cooperatives of women in a program called Life. We're trying to take life to the villages. Too much concentration on the city.
In the town.
An erroneous belief that once we are comfortable, Nigeria is fine. It is not. The urban poor are the biggest threats to Nigeria's security.
How is that?
There are 9 in a room. They are graduates. They have entitlement. They have a certificate. They want the good life. They are watching your nice cars flow by, and they're watching the bright lights in VI, Ikoyi, and Maitama, and so on. They like the nice houses. They will never enter them. But they have a degree, some too. And they have arrived from the village because there's no life in the village. So they've come in here, and they want to be part of it. They can't get in, so they stay in their frustration, in the misery of this very wretched environment. How long do you think they'll wait before they lose their temper? On the other hand, if they had an industry, even back in the village, giving them access to wealth, why do they need to move and stay in the squalor of Ajegunle or some Mararaba or no man's land somewhere and suffer? We think, and from the experience we have now, that this program is going to work. As we set these things up, we see young men and young women moving back home and saying, fine, I'll go to Lagos, enjoy my weekend, take a holiday, I have money, I pay a good hotel, but I'm making money in the village. I'd rather do that than starve in the city. So we're spreading that. And we have a lot of our staff who are engaging in mobilizing communities, organizing cooperatives. One of them is here. They go to the village, organize the communities, and especially the women. When you give them a loan, they repay.
They take it seriously.
Worldwide, about 97% repayment among women. Among the men, 40-something, at the highest 60. That's always an excuse. But we also want to give life to the woman, to the widow, to the woman nursing her baby. We set up these factories. There's a creche, there's a canteen, a good toilet system, and a factory house. And let the woman go home at the end of the day with 2,000 naira, 3,000. Make a good meal for the family. But women are not as wasteful with funds as men are. You rarely see a serious Nigerian woman in a beer parlor drinking beer or buying pepper soup for others. Her worry is her children, her husband, her children. That's how it is. And if we want to stabilize this society, we've got to do this.
That's the way to go.
Absolutely. And we're targeting 1,000 industries of this kind between now and when we end our tenure in 2019.
You said we spent $22 billion
importing
a year.
food. $5 million a day on rice.
A day.
A day. For the last 30, 40 years. Shiploads are coming. Tomato paste, $100 million. Honey, 100 million. Name it. We did nothing. Biscuits and cookies, toothpicks, egg powder from outside.
What's egg powder?
We powder eggs. Nestle uses it for Bonvita and all this stuff.
Can't we do it here?
Oh, we're not yet. We're going to start now.
The CBN has agreed that loans to farmers, you were saying that should be 5% interest.
Yes.
I mean, that was something you arrived at following major discussions. And I'm asking, is that still on paper? Are we seeing that now? Is it going
By
to be
the
happening?
grace of God, it's going to happen. First, we're strengthening the Bank of Agric. 2, worldwide, the average interest rate for Agric is 3.5%.
Worldwide?
Worldwide. 18% here is outrageous. It may be good for growing cocaine, but certainly not for producing rice and sugar and milk.
Yes.
So if we get there with the increased yield on the farms now because of our new fertilizer formula, no farmer has an excuse for not paying back. Unless some disaster really happened. If there was a flood, we understand. And we'll get there. And then we are getting a license for the Bank of Agri to begin to do retail banking alongside the development program.
How will that work?
We get a microfinance license nationwide, and farmers nationwide bank with the Bank of Agri. There's a branch in every local government. There can be 2. We're looking at 40 to 50 million clients of the Bank of Agri. With that kind of thing, we should have a war chest of about 200, 300, 400 billion before we get money from the World Bank, African Development Bank to put in and have $1 trillion naira to lend out to farmers. Because I tell you this, sometimes you get frustrated with Nigerians, right? All of us.
Yes.
We frustrate ourselves. But the response of Nigerians to agriculture and what I see coming so encourages me. I know this country is going far. In another few years, nobody argues with us. We'll produce enough to eat, to sell, to pay our debts, and earn a hefty foreign reserve to be able to meet contingencies if they ever come.
Census of livestock, you held one in 2016. Why did we need to do a census?
It's necessary to know what you have, how many cows, how many sheep, pigs, goats you have in a country.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard people say it sounds funny.
It does, but you must know, because in your budgeting,
Yes.
you are providing money for things. The goat has a disease called PPR.
PPI.
Right? Yeah, peste de petit ruminant. It's a French thing. The goat catches this disease it's like pneumonia and starts coughing and just dies off. But we like goat meat. Goat milk is even more expensive than cow milk. If you go to France, they are familiar with cheese.
Yes.
And goat is good meat. Among the Igbos, shewu is a lovely delicacy, right? You know, ndogun, good meat. What's the name?
Asu. Yes.
I have eaten it, very nice. So, and you know what? Saudi Arabia and the Middle East have just called us to say they would like to buy goat meat carcasses. You know how much? 130,000 per week.
130,000 carcasses. That's killed.
Processed according to Islamic standards,
Yes.
packaged and flown out. What's wrong with the revenue?
That's good money.
Now, the Chinese arrived recently and took all our donkeys, and we had to raise an alarm. So we stopped them taking donkeys.
What were they using?
We don't know exactly why, but apparently either some people eat the meat, but they wanted the skin. Suddenly, donkeys were selling faster and at a higher price than cows. And they were asking us, can't you rear them for us? We're looking at that. So you need to know, before you wake up one morning and find there are no goats,
Yes.
and no sheep, and no cattle, you need to know. Do you have enough cows? We don't. We are 200 million people in another 5 years. Brazil is about 200 million. Brazil has 220 million cows. We have less than 15 million cows here. Every country counts their cattle. 220 million in Brazil, at the last census.
Do we have enough cattle to feed, to
Only
satisfy
15.
our animal protein?
Not exactly. Lagos consumes 6,000 cows a day. Unfortunately, now vet doctors don't check the cows anymore before they slaughter them. They kill some and find they're pregnant, which should not happen.
You shouldn't kill a pregnant cow.
No, you shouldn't, because the fetus is dead. We need at least anything in the neighborhood of 40, 50 million cows here, so that the price of beef can drop and then the quality of milk and so on.
Are we going to explore genetically modified foods at all?
The attitude of government today is not yet. I know that there is biotechnology thing that was approved in the last government,
Yes.
but we are a little skeptical about it because there's a great deal of suspicion, especially by the Europeans. The Americans don't see anything wrong with it, but we are waiting a little bit. We'll be quite happy with hybrid seeds for now. And the 3 universities should get involved very soon with more research on hybrid. They'll make money. So for now, no.
Is there a disadvantage to our health or, in consuming GMO foods?
There are suspicions. There's no scientific proof that there has been a disaster yet as a result.
Yes.
But people are suspicious, so we're waiting. We want to be a bit sure, because if something should go wrong over there, they have means of containing them. We don't have, not yet.
And I was reading that, government is saying they're exploring ways to reduce the price of food items. I thought that sounded funny. How do you want to convince me to reduce the price of foods that I brought all the way from the north or from Edo State to Lagos State? I mean, without me making a loss.
People in the cities were crying, and we know that with the downturn and the recession,
Yes.
not enough money is circulating. And the city dweller is a Nigerian citizen, and he plays an important role. He's a banker, a lawyer, he's a doctor, a civil servant, an engineer. So we felt their cry, because the price of food got quite high. And they are saying, oh, for God's sake, it's too costly to feed the family. My salary can't last 2 weeks. I'm spending 80% on food.
Yes.
I can't pay my rent, my children's school fees, I can't do this and that. So we felt it. On the other hand, when they started complaining, and the president set up a committee, which I headed, to look into the price of food. The moment we met, the farmers raised an alarm. You told us to go and grow food. We're now making money, and you're telling us you want to bring down the price. So we had to. But in between the farmer and the consumer, we knew where the problems lay. Cost of transportation. Because diesel also went up from 120 naira a litre to nearly 265. And the farmer needs diesel for his tractor to plow his field. The trailer driver needs diesel to move goods from Kano to Lagos, Edo to Lagos,
Yes.
or even from Lagos to Kano, if it is frozen fish
Yes.
or something. And there we were, trapped. So one of the reasons was the devaluation of the currency. The naira fell very badly, and so the impact was felt. But government also knows that your people must be happy, and it is the business of government. Whether it's you who caused the problem or didn't,
Or
that's not the issue.
Yes.
You're here, they have no one else to talk to. So if they're angry with you, you will understand. We feel the pinch. Sometimes they abuse and say it's a failure, this and that. We understand. It's our job. So we've started working on certain things. I can tell you today that in the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks, the price of rice will fall so well that the smuggler will have no business bringing low-grade rice to this country, because the rice, Nigerian rice, for whoever tasted it at Christmas and now knows that this is better food. First, we have no anxiety about arsenic in our food, because we're not growing rice in marshlands like some of our suppliers from Southeast Asia, and arsenic is bad for the health. 2, ours is a seasoned crop, harvested a month, 2 weeks ago, you milled and put in the market.
Not stored.
So the
over
storage of
months.
5-6 years is no good, right? And 3, we're saving $5 million a day. 4, we're making the villagers richer. Farmers sold paddy to the millers last 2 years ago for 65,000 naira per ton. Now they're selling at 150,000. We're meeting with them now to say to them, okay, you've enjoyed enough. Why don't you reduce the price a bit? We'll give you a minimum price of 120,000. You're still making good money. So you can sell it to the miller at a reasonable price. And then the miller can sell it to Nigerians at 13,000 a bag, maybe 12 and a half. That meeting will take place next week. But if that alone doesn't work, government will intervene. Every country intervenes to feed its people. And if the intervention is 200 naira per Nigerian head, so what? It's intervention in the local economy. Nobody is losing. As long as the money is not going out, it's creating wealth. And fancy 40 million farmers in the villages making gari. A basin of gari 2 years ago was 3,000 naira. It's now 12,000. Why? Harvesting cassava in the dry season is very difficult. You can't bend and pull it to break your waist. So we have machines now that will help you harvest your cassava.
To dig it out.
Dig it out behind the tractor. And then you lift it and put it in there. And then gari processing machines are being distributed all over now too, at half price, that people can process these things, including industrial starch, high-grade cassava flour for the bread industry.
Yes.
All that is in the works.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci too. Merci.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela at Jetumobi.